I'm reading 3 articles called Fundamentals on Reitz.com. These appeared in the last few days, and it's always important to go back over the fundamentals. This one's entitled Your Ship of State, Fundamentals 1. I've been amazed and chagrined over the last few days to plumb the depths of ignorance that infest both what serves as our government and the general populace. Those who received the simple text charts that I sent out yesterday should note the line separating the top and bottom half of all 3 chart pages. On top of the dividing line in green is the word land, and below the line in blue is the word sea. Only one entity straddles that line between the land and the sea, and that entity is the United States of America, unincorporated. It controls the entire international land jurisdiction owed to this country, and it exercises the powers retained by the states and people in the international jurisdiction of the sea per Amendment 10. And in the event of the incapacity of one or more of the entities entrusted to exercise our delegated powers in the international jurisdiction of the sea, we retain the right to receive those delegated powers back and to exercise them at our discretion. The United States of America, unincorporated, not to be confused with the United States of America, incorporated, is our ship of state. If our ship of state goes down, so do we. Everyone else has been concentrating their effort on saving their own names and estates out of the corporate bankruptcy slush pile. Only we have been concentrating on saving our ship of state. The rescue of individual names and estates is akin to launching lifeboats. It allows a few people who are awake and moving to save their own assets and defend themselves against the banks and foreign creditors who will otherwise seize upon them as chattel backing the debts of the bankrupt federal corporations. But ultimately, it's the ship of state that we all have to save and reclaim from the jaws of the banks. If we fail, then many millions of trusting, unsuspecting Americans will suffer the misery and horror of a commercial mercenary war carried out under color of law. They will be ousted from their homes and shops and small businesses, and they won't even know what's happening or why. The means to do this have already been suggested in Florida, Kentucky, and Pennsylvania, where people suddenly receive huge, quote, tax bills, over $100,000 worth of, quote, extra property taxes and, quote, extra income tax assessments issued within a 30-day pay or be with a 30-day pay or be evicted notice. We fought them off and shut them down, but if we don't band together and sail our ship of state, there will no longer be a means to fend off these insane veiled commercial claims from the secondary creditors of, quote, the United States Incorporated and USA Inc. You're all helping by becoming aware of the issues and educating yourself about the government you're supposed to have, the history and the fraud that has been played on us and our entire country, as well as many other countries throughout the world. You're helping by acknowledging, accepting, and reconveying your trade names and all the derivative names to the land and soil of the actual state you were born on and recording your claim. You're helping with your prayers and good wishes and sharing of information. Last but not least, you're helping by sending donations that keep our guys going and keep our postage paid. That's all part of it, and a very necessary and valid part too. But we, the members of our group, are the ones who already have the standing to save our ship of state. We're the ones that spent 20 years establishing our standing, giving due process, building claims, establishing court records, establishing liens, declaring capacity, reissuing and posting notice of our sovereign letters patent to forestall any claim that we, the United States of America, unincorporated, no longer exist, securing representation at the United Nations, forming contractual ties with the Native American nations to prevent the plot to vacate our national constitution, and so much more that can't even be described in a book, much less an article. Now, we are the priority creditors of all the federal, territorial, and municipal corporations worldwide. We, the American states and nations, represented by the United States of America, unincorporated, are the only ones that can forgive the public debts of the territorial and municipal United States and the debts of many other nations. It is important that you all understand the absolutely crucial and pivotal role that I and my husband and these others, members of the living law firm and the American Indian nations, play in bringing forward the claims of the United States of America unincorporated. More, quote, crew members join us every day, but we're the ones who are in place at the ship's wheel, turning our ship of state around and claiming back the assets of our states and our people. It was the intention of the international banks to claim that our entire country was abandoned and that it has no viable government because the territorial and municipal corporations have all bankrupted themselves, and our national level government has supposedly been, quote, kept in trust by these fraud artists for many years, while our assets have been fraudulently used as collateral, backing the private debts of these corporate governmental services providers. They meant to take it all on a claim of abandonment, just like they engineered the confiscation of privately held American gold back in the 1930s, used it as collateral backing their own bankruptcy, and then when the bankruptcy settled, came back in and claimed that the gold was abandoned, heirs and owners unknown. They meant to play that trick against our entire country and all our assets. They meant to claim that, gee, folks, look at all these abandoned state land trusts and all these unclaimed individual estates, and, oh, by the way, all these persons that have no owners. Guess it's all free for the secondary creditors, the banks, to claim. That is what they've been working at. Basically, the foreclosure of our entire country and all our assets, public and private, because of the relatively paltry debts of two foreign corporations whose only business here is to provide us with essential government services. It's that far bigger claim that we're fighting and denouncing as fraud and odious debt being held against innocent third parties who have been deliberately defrauded in breach of trust and violation of commercial contract. The United States of America unincorporated is still here, still viable, and is claiming back all of its assets, public and private, every scrap that is owed to the people and the actual states of this country. Help steer your ship of state off the reef, plan for it, and save yourselves and everyone else in the process. Once these issues are decided in our favor, we can straighten out the bookkeeping nightmare these vermin have created and return everyone's property to them worldwide. We can even help Mr. Trump drain the swamp and get the territorial and municipal United States into solvent and properly ordered condition. The United States of America is the proper name of this country, and its proper capacity and sovereign form is as an unincorporated body politic operating as an unincorporated business engaged in peaceful international trade. So here we are at the 11th hour, giving proof to our government that our government and our property is not abandoned. Hopefully, you all have some inkling now of the scope and importance of what the Living Law Firm and the Michigan General Assembly and a couple hundred other local and state government organizations have undertaken, and you understand too why our time is so limited and our resources are always strained. We have taken on nothing less than the devil himself and the whole empire of Mystery Babylon, all the scheming banks and crooked bureaucrats in the world. We have done it all with volunteers, with the sword of light and truth, with the sword and light of truth, with the passion for compassion, with the determination of the green shoots in spring, with the hope that perseveres and the will that will not yield. We have done it for you because you were asleep. We have done it because of you and so many other innocents who have suffered at the hands of these corporate scumbags. So by all means and with all speed, seize hold of your trade names and derivative names and land them safe on the land and soil. Boot up your local jural assemblies. Prepare for any stormy weather that might be. Pray for your grand old ship of state under her civil flag as she sails into the courts and marketplaces of the world and declares, hey, those are our assets. And pray for all of those who sail her. See this article and over 800 others on Anna's website at annavonreitz.com. It's actually over 900 articles now. To support this work, give via PayPal. There is a PayPal button, and you spell it ANNAVONREITZ.com. And the second article on the fundamentals is Fundamentals 2, Are You a Citizen? Reading from AnnaVonReitz.com. Yesterday I had another hard knock. A reader writing from Wyoming was upset because the state of Wyoming's Supreme Court had denied the sovereignty of a man claiming to be a, quote, private citizen. What else was the state of Wyoming Supreme Court supposed to do? Claiming to be a private citizen is the same exact kind of oxymoron as claiming to be a, quote, sovereign citizen. You can not be acting in a private capacity and claiming to be a citizen at the same time. You are either in the Army or out of the Army. There's no in between. So ask yourself this all-important question. Am I a citizen? That is, number one, am I a federal employee or dependent? If so, I am a citizen. Number two, am I an African American? If so, I am a citizen, but have equal civil rights. Number three, am I listed in Title 42, a political asylum seeker, recent immigrant, or welfare seeker? If so, I am a citizen. 4, am I consciously, willingly operating as a federal corporate franchisee in international commerce? If so, I am a citizen. And number 5, was I born in Guam or Puerto Rico or some other legitimate and recognized territory of the United States? If so, I am a citizen. For 90% of Americans, the honest answer to this question is, hell no, I am not a citizen and never have been except for a brief stint in the U.S. military. So why are you all wandering around nodding your heads like zombies and agreeing that you are U.S. citizens or citizens of the United States? It's because you have been indoctrinated to answer yes without thinking, without even questioning what a citizen is. Look up the legal definition. A citizen owes an obligation of service to the government. Do you have any obligation to serve the government, or does the government have an obligation to serve you? So it's simple. If you aren't a citizen, stop saying that you are. Say I'm a non-citizen national instead. Another way to think of this is citizen equals public capacity, while non-citizen national equals private capacity. You're either in the Army or out of the Army, part of and working for the government or not, voluntarily accepting public benefits or not. If that unfortunate gentleman in Wyoming had known these simple facts and had characterized himself properly as a non-citizen national and native of Wyoming or whatever other state he was born in, the result of his trial might have turned out very differently. But until we know for sure who we are and in what capacity we are acting, we can't blame anyone else for not knowing who we are and what we are doing. That is, in what capacity we are acting. The courts, in order to have jurisdiction, are always going to presume that you are a citizen and that you are consciously acting as a citizen at all times. It's up to you to tell them otherwise, and it's also up to you to document your choices and political status on the public record before you get hauled into their courts. Otherwise, they're free to presume that you are a citizen and subject to the whims of the government, which has no obligation to serve citizens. Citizens have no constitutional rights or guarantees. Citizens are obligated to know and observe and obey all 80 million statutory laws and public policies. Citizens can't own land on the actual states and are merely residents, temporarily passing through while they are stationed here to provide essential government services. Citizens are obligated to pay federal and federated state income and property taxes. Citizens are responsible for paying the entire public debt and can't question it. Are you beginning to get the drift here? Beginning to understand why you've been indoctrinated since grade school to identify yourself as a citizen and never told that you had another option? If you're finding this information helpful, please consider making a donation to the cause. Our guys in the field are slogging it out inch by inch, page by page, filing by filing. They need your help to keep going. I need your help to keep going. Please, if you have any extra you can spare to spread this knowledge and the lawful claims that go with it, share. The crunch is on us. The crunch is upon us. Send PayPal donations to No, it's not right. To AVANNAVON @gmail.com. Again, that is AVANNAVON@gmail.com. Send checks and money orders to Anna Maria Reitzinger, care of Post Office Box 520994, Big Lake, Alaska 99652. And thank you for listening and sharing. See this article and over 900 others on Anna's website at annavonreitz.com. Again, give generously via PayPal, and you spell it ANNAVONREITZ.com. Reading from Fundamentals 3-Year Flags. Every country on earth has both a martial flag, otherwise known as a war flag, and a civil flag known as a peace flag. They also have a military, armed forces in charge of the war flag, and a civilian service, civilian government employees in charge of the peace flag. In this country, Old Glory, the Stars and Stripes is the war flag, and the United States civil flag, the one with vertical stripes, is what it says it is, the peacetime flag of the civil service. In America, we are served by principal branches of military service: Army, Navy, Air Force, and U.S. Marine Corps, plus other forces like the National Guard, all of which fly the war flag, the Stars and Stripes, for obvious reasons. We are also supposed to have a federal civil service, and that service is supposed to be flying the United States civil flag, a distinctively different version of our flag with vertical stripes, but isn't. Why not? The United States civil flag should be flying over post offices, customs houses, departmental office, buildings like the United States Department of Labor, etc., and agencies like the FBI, FAA, BLM, and so on. Instead, all these federal entities, whether martial or civil, are flying the Stars and Stripes, the war flag, and have done so as far back as anyone can remember. There isn't an American now living who can remember when the post offices flew the United States civil flag. It disappeared in the confusion and aftermath of the Civil War in the so-called Reconstruction era, which it turns out should have been more aptly called the Obstruction era. We have very early tintype photographs from newspapers and drawings and lithographs from before the Civil War showing the United States civil flag flying over post offices and courts and other civil office buildings, all with vertical stripes. There are notable letters and official documents and period publications confirming these facts, and we even have photographs documenting the use of the United States civil flag at polling places and other public events after the Civil War ended. The most accessible and easiest proof of the existence and use of the United States civil flag is at the very beginning of Nathaniel Hawthorne's classic novel, The Scarlet Letter, where he describes the United States civil flag in detail, flying over a federal customs house. The Scarlet Letter was published in 1850, a few years before the illegal mercenary conflict we have been taught to call the American Civil War. Our national government, the federal government, we are supposed to have running the delegated federal services, has been secretively mothballed by the foreign British territorial United States government ever since the end of the Civil War. They have usurped upon the American national government in breach of trust and commercial contract, and substituted themselves as the primary federal service providers, having unlawfully converted the original states of state into territorial states of states, and otherwise reconstructed things to suit their best interests, albeit without the knowledge or consent of the American states and people. Our national level flags, both of them, have their origins during the Revolutionary War. The Stars and Stripes was and is the banner of the Federation of States doing business under the unanimous Declaration of Independence as the United States of America, unincorporated, in 1776. The so-called rebellious flag with vertical stripes was adopted as a banner of the Confederation of States doing business under the Articles of Confederation as the States of America, 1781. Thus, from the infancy of the government of this country, there were two unions of states, a federation and a confederation. The federation operated under the auspices of the United States of America, unincorporated, includes the international land jurisdiction states known as Maine, Florida, Wisconsin, Texas, California, Italia. The Confederation operated under the auspices of the States of America Unincorporated, including the original State of Maine, State of Florida, State of Wisconsin, State of Texas, State of California, Italia. The United States of America Unincorporated and its states occupy the land jurisdiction of this country and retains the undelegated powers of the combined states in the international jurisdiction of the sea per Amendment 10. The States of America Unincorporated and its states of states, such as the original state of Georgia, occupied the international jurisdiction of the sea and exercised the delegated powers vouchsafed to the national level federal government. The British-backed territorial United States had a limited trustee role to play on the high seas and navigable inland waterways, and in providing security for the District of Columbia, Puerto Rico, Guam, and other insular states, but was never intended to serve in any national level government capacity for us and has no consent to do so. What should have happened after the so-called American Civil War, which was in reality an illegal mercenary catfight among federal government service providers and would-be government service providers, is that the States of America Unincorporated should have been allowed to hold new elections and seat new delegates in the National Congress, and life should have gone on peaceably and normally in this country. Instead, shysters serving as the members of Congress during the armed hostilities decided to make a buck after the fighting stopped. Acting in sheer treason, they pretended that the national level federal government owed to the actual states and people of this country was in abeyance, and they substituted territorial states of states for the original national states of states, deceptively calling one by the same name as the other. That is, they substituted a British territorial state of Florida for the national state of Florida we are owed. They operated the territorial United States Congress to do this, and rolled all the assets of the original national state of Florida into land trusts, which they named Florida State, Wisconsin State, and so forth, which they also controlled. On the surface, so far as average Americans could see, everything stayed the same. There was a state of Florida before the war and a state of Florida after the war. In fact, a profound fraud and change had taken place. The original national state of Florida was under the direct control of the actual Florida legislature, which was in turn elected by the living people. The territorial state of Florida was operated as a corporate franchise, doing business as State of Florida Incorporated, operated by the British Crown and controlled by British subject shareholders. In this way, by fraud, deceit, and breach of trust, the British contrived to control what appeared to be our national government and to get their filthy fingers into our pockets and steal our resources to control our commercial dealings, our trade policies, and our war-making decisions via the substitution of their own territorial United States government operating as our national United States government, all the while excusing this to the rest of the world and pretending that our government was in abeyance. It was the biggest con job in human history. They have played it to the hilt. Bear in mind that all this was accomplished by owning and controlling a relative few Americans who were elected to serve into something calling itself the United States Congress. The perpetrators just neglected to tell us which United States this Congress was supposed to be serving. The actual national level United States Congress, the territorial United States Congress, the municipal United States Congress. Most of this evil was accomplished by such simple omissions and obfuscations, and by deceptively similar names deceits, and it is all purposeful fraud undertaken in self-interest from 1860 onward. The territorial United States Congress embarked on a series of copyright infringements and more breaches of trust by naming its principal corporate franchise after our legitimate and still standing unincorporated government. In 1868, they created the United States of America Incorporated, which they bankrupted in 1907. They also created the United States of America Incorporated with a tiny change to the capitalization of the letter T in the word the, and this was bankrupted in 1933. They used this similar names to seek to give Americans and the rest of the world the false assumption that we were bankrupt, when in fact it was only their territorial and municipal corporations being deliberately bankrupted as a means to promote our assumption of their debts. The British Crown and the Bank of England and their buddies have carried on with all this fraud and duplicity and criminality, and have promoted all this treasonous activity and breach of trust in violation of their treaties and commercial contracts right under our noses. They would like for us to interpret this situation as a political issue, but in fact, it's a matter of international crime, theirs. The territorial United States can fly the Stars and Stripes in wartime. They can't fly the national level United States civil flag, which is the property of the states of America, our mothballed and purportedly in abeyance national level government. Since 1999, they haven't even been able to fly the official version, Title 4 Stars and Stripes they adopted. In that year, the bankruptcy of the United States of America Incorporated, which began in 1933, ended. As part of the settlement, the territorial United States government had to abandon the District of Columbia and decamp, leaving behind all the buildings and the flag and other public property rightfully belonging to the United States of America Unincorporated, the American states and the American people who were then and who are now the priority creditors. Commander Russell J. Gould stepped into the gap, rescued the Title IV Stars and Stripes, reopened the post office as we are owed, and established the continuance of the evidence of our actual government's existence, that is, the national level unincorporated government and our unincorporated territorial government as well. The perpetrators of these fraud schemes could not fly the actual Title IV Stars and Stripes during the corporate bankruptcies they engineered as a means of picking us clean, so they flew decorative versions with gold fringe and caps on the flagstaffs as national colors instead. They hung the Stars and Stripes vertically in the congressional chambers as a pretense of civil authority and substitute for the United States civil flag. The perpendicular hanging of the Stars and Stripes also strikes that version and gives notice of their international bankruptcy. Here's the cheerful news. The United States of America Unincorporated owns it all, absolutely all across the board. The unincorporated government is the sovereign government. All the rest of this is just international crime by foreign governments and foreign corporations. Breach of trust, fraud, unlawful conversion, false claims in commerce, etc., etc., etc. None of it has any validity, and none of it is our fault. As important as the States of America organization was, as our national level government exercising our delegated powers, and as outrageous as it is that our then elect public servants and international trustees allowed and committed these frauds against us and our lawful government, we are still in control and the flags are still ours, both of them. During the Obama administration, the perpetrators had one last throw at us. They couldn't work out a way to force us to void the constitutional agreement, so they contrived to vacate them. Instead, by bankrupting both the territorial United States government and the municipal United States government at the same time. That would leave all three levels of federal government inoperative and all the constitutional agreements vacated. We would be at the mercy of every pirate and bounder and international bank in the world. The mothballed national government, all those juicy state trusts, and all the personal estate trusts the perpetrators established and operated in our names would then be easy pickings for the secondary creditors of the bankrupt territorial and municipal government organizations to claim as abandoned trust property. We would be left with nothing, penniless and homeless in our own country. Instead, we reissued our sovereign letters patent and concluded agreements with the new federal partners, the American Indian nations. This action prevented any vacating of the constitutional agreements from the federal side and again gave notice to the world that our assets are not abandoned. Just to drive that point home again, the hereditary head of state and owner of both the Great Seal of the United States of America and the Great Seal of the United States issued the declaration of flag, conveyance of the abeyance, end of presumed interregnum, and proclamation in addendum on October 21st, 2017, and placed it in the public records internationally. Our United States civil flag is fully restored, and it is in use again, and our Stars and Stripes has never been retired. See AnnaVonReitz.com Declaration of Flag. It's a PDF. Despite all the lies, all the criminality, all the effort to overcome our lawful government by fraud and deceit and breach of trust and every other means, we are still standing, and you can be proud of both your flags and your seals. In celebration of the restoration of your national level government, we advise and invite everyone to fly the United States civil flag. Both flags are ours, and they are both honorable for our part, but of the two, the United States civil flag is most uniquely and recognizably our own. No foreign territorial or municipal government in the world can fly it, including those that claim to exercise some of our delegated powers. We continue to press our charges and our claims, and to absolutely rebut any presumption by any party anywhere that our actual sovereign government is now or ever has been in any sort of bankruptcy or interregnum. We claim every cubic centimeter of American soil and all trusts, private and public, naturally belonging to the American states and people. See this article and over 900 others on Anna's website, AnnaVonReitz.com. Support her work via PayPal. You spell it AnnaVonReitz.com. Corrections. Real quick one, reading from AnnaVonReitz.com. A lot of people are getting confused by reading old articles and trying to follow along. For example, I originally suggested sending authenticated birth certificates to the Secretary of Treasury because we were trying to help expedite processing ahead of a looming deadline. Well, the deadline is passed. There's no reason to provide authenticated birth certificates to Mnuchin anymore. Just send regular old birth certificates and let the Treasury officials work out the rest. Keep your authenticated birth certificates for your own records. These unambiguously establish your priority creditor status for the courts or anyone else who cares to ask. Remember that Mnuchin has no money to dispense, and that at best he can get your property transferred out of their bankruptcies, which is the real point of the exercise. Also, the process I described referring to 12 steps is actually a process of rebutting unstated legal presumptions that kick in when you're actually already involved in court cases and have nothing to do with correcting your political status per se. They were being talked about because so many people were already in deep kimchi and searching for means to deal with these courts. We have since developed very efficient means to avoid these presumptions entanglements in their court system altogether. So please ignore the old article about 12 steps and follow along. Knowing the information in that article is a good thing, but mistaking it as a general means of correcting political status is not. The importance of recording your actual political status is to safeguard yourself from false charges and entanglements in their courts, to protect your property and identity, and to allow you to restore the lawful government you are owed. Irishmen can't run the Spanish government, and neither can you as citizens run ours. We have to get our political status straight before we can take up the issue of restoring first the counties, then the states, then the national government we are owed. See this article and over 900 others on AnnaVonReitz.com. You spell it AnnaVonReitz.com. And number 900, the turning of the seasons and the tides. Word is beginning to dribble in from all around the country of court victories and banks giving up and releasing foreclosure claims against Americans. There is still a great deal to be settled and still some great injustices being perpetuated, but the tides are turning in favor of the little people, and I'm not talking about leprechauns, who have taken my advice to heart. First, mandatory FSIA notice, Foreign Sovereign Immunities Act notice. Second, acknowledgement, acceptance, and reconveyance of deed, which includes claim to your trade name and all derivative names and declarations of their permanent domicile on the land and soil of California, Wisconsin, which state you were born on. Number 3, active expatriation, making it clear and explicit that you forswear any territorial United States or municipal United States citizenship. And number 4, common law certificate of assumed name. I do not want to be inundated with questions about recovery of homes and farms and businesses that have already been taken illegally and unlawfully just yet, because I don't know the answers at this point. The bankers and politicians have created an immense backlog of injustice and loss, and not all of it can be simply returned. There isn't enough title insurance in the world to compensate everyone who has been harmed. That said, there will be answers and there will be remediation. Just expect that it will take time to work out the details, and realize that the living law firm is working as hard as it possibly can, as fast as it possibly can. We are very much under the gun to do mammoth amounts of work in a short time, understaffed, underfunded, and dependent upon all of you to weigh in and help steer the ship and keep bailing. Donations are very gratefully accepted. My PayPal account, which directly feeds the living law firm and the American States and Nations Bank, is avannavon@gmail.com. That is avannavon@gmail.com. My snail mail address is Anna Maria Reitzinger, care of Box 520994, Big Lake, Alaska 99652. See this article and over 900 others on Anna's website at annavonreitz.com. Give generously via PayPal. You spell it ANNAVONREITZ.com.